How a Married Man Tests You and What It Really Means, Carl Jung. Have you ever noticed that he always leaves his phone face down when he's with you? Or that you mention your wife just at the moments when you are closest? This is no coincidence. It's a psychological test that you didn't even realize you were taking. The shocking truth is, married men don't get emotionally involved by accident. There is a calculated, almost mathematical pattern of behavior that they follow before they allow themselves to feel anything real. And the most disturbing? You are being evaluated right now through signals that seem harmless. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 8 secret tests that married men unconsciously apply and what each of them means about his intentions with you. Some will surprise you, others will make you rethink every conversation they've ever had, but all will give you the power to finally understand what's really going on. Get ready, because after this video, you'll never ignore those signs again. 1. The controlled emotional distance test. He comes to you, talks intensely for days, and then suddenly disappears for a whole week. When he returns, he acts as if nothing had happened. This movement of approximation and distancing is not random. It's a way for him to measure how much you care without having to make any real commitments. The psychology behind it is simple. He's watching your reactions. Do you get anxious? Do you send messages demanding satisfaction? Or does he act with indifference? Each answer from you gives valuable information about how much control he has in the dynamic between you. When you show anxiety, he understands that he has conquered a significant emotional space. When you act naturally, he feels the need to try harder. The interesting thing is that this pattern reveals a lot about his own insecurity. Men in stable relationships often don't master the game of modern seduction. They are out of practice, so they use this forward and backward strategy because it works as a thermometer. It's safer than exposing yourself completely and finding out that you're not as interested as he imagined. But there is a deeper side to this dynamic. By creating this distance, he also protects his own conscience. Each departure works as a reminder to himself. This is not serious. I still have control. It is a way of rationalizing behavior. If he maintains a certain coldness, he can convince himself that he is not cheating emotionally. It's just a conversation, just a friendship with tension. What's really being tested here is your ability to deal with ambiguity. He needs to know if you accept this undefined format of relationship. If you push for clarity, definitions, and compromises, you fail the test of it. If you accept the emotional crumbs without question, you pass. But passing this test means entering a cycle where you'll always be waiting, always available, always in the background. The uncomfortable truth is that this test reveals his intentions from the start. Men genuinely interested in building something real don't disappear strategically. They do not create artificial distance to measure devotion. When someone wants his presence, he makes it clear through consistency, not through psychological games that leave you always doubting your own worth. 2. The game of how long you can wait. He can never see you on the weekends. Holidays are impossible. Special dates always have some family impediment. And you find yourself rushing into meetings on a Wednesday afternoon or quick chats during his lunch break. This pattern isn't about busy schedules. It's about priorities being measured and hierarchies being established. What is happening here is a gradual conditioning. He starts by offering little and observes if you accept. When you accept without complaint, he understands that he can offer even less. It's like a reverse auction where the value of your company decreases with each bid you accept. Each time you make yourself available at times that are convenient only for him, you teach him that his time is of little importance. But the test goes beyond the simple availability of an agenda. He is measuring his self-esteem. People with well-established self-love simply won't accept crumbs of attention. They recognize when they are being treated as an option and naturally move away. Then, when you continue to accept this format, it receives confirmation that you will not require more. This is convenient for someone who doesn't have more to offer. There is also a dimension of power in this dynamic. Whoever controls time controls the relationship. By defining when and where you meet, he maintains complete command of the situation. You live in expectation, always waiting for a moment that he decides to grant. This creates a huge emotional asymmetry. As you organize your life around its possibilities, it fits you into the empty spaces of routine. The cruelest aspect of this test is that it functions as a self-fulfilling prophecy. The longer you wait, the more he feels justified in making you wait. He interprets your patience as a sign that it is enough for you, never like what you really are, a hope that eventually things will change and you will become a priority. The central question is simple. How much time of your life are you willing to spend waiting for someone who has already clearly demonstrated where you are on their list of priorities? Because while you wait, your real life keeps ticking by. If you really want to understand why a married man tests you like this and how to turn that game in your favor, watch the JUNG method. The link is pinned in the first comment. 3. The provocation of shared guilt. He begins to tell about the problems of the marriage. His wife no longer understands him. The emotional connection ended years ago. They are practically housemates sharing expenses and responsibilities. Each such revelation feels like an invitation for you to come in, a justification for what is happening between you. But what is really at stake is something much more calculated. By sharing this information, he is creating complicity. It's not just about making you feel sorry or feel special for receiving those confidences. It's about turning you into an active participant in his narrative. When you listen to these outbursts and offer understanding, you go from being an external observer to an internal ally. And allies don't judge, they don't ask tough questions, they don't demand change. This movement has a specific psychological function: to dilute moral responsibility. If his marriage was already bad before you showed up, then you're not the cause of anything. If she's cold and distant, then he's just looking outside for what he can't find at home. Every justification he offers, and you accept without question, turns into an implicit authorization to continue. The most interesting thing is to observe what it does not tell. Notice that these complaints always focus on her flaws, never on his own. You never hear about how he contributed to the deterioration of the relationship, about the times when he chose work over family, about the times when he was emotionally absent. The narrative is always one-sided, painting him as a victim of circumstances. The test here is about your willingness to accept simplified versions of complex situations. Years-long relationships don't end because one person is bad and the other is good. But he needs that simple narrative, and he needs you to believe it. When you swallow this story without asking uncomfortable questions, you pass his test. You become the person who offers unconditional validation, something that is probably missing in his life. But here's the problem. By accepting to enter into this dynamic of shared guilt, you also accept that there will always be a third person in the equation. You'll never be the only one. You will always be the understanding, the patient, the one who understands his difficulties while he keeps both worlds working. 4. The test of your reaction to her name. He mentions his wife purposely at specific times, right after a compliment to you, in the middle of an intimate conversation, when it seems like you're creating a bubble of just the two of you. This movement is neither accidental nor innocent. It is a sophisticated psychological test disguised as transparency or honesty. The goal is to observe how you react emotionally when reality invades the moment. Are you visibly uncomfortable? Do you change the subject quickly, or do you act as if you haven't heard anything? Each reaction offers valuable insight into how much you are willing to tolerate the situation as it really is, not as you would like it to be. When you show discomfort, he gains confirmation of the power he has over you. It means that you are involved enough to care about her existence. This feeds his ego in a particular way. He managed to create a situation where two women compete for his attention, even though one doesn't even know the competition exists. It's a powerful validation for someone who may not feel as valued at home. On the other hand, if you act with total indifference when he mentions it, it also serves his interests. It confirms that you accept the supporting role without creating drama or emotional charges. You become the easy person, the one who doesn't complicate, the one who understands that he has a separate life and doesn't question it. It is a comfortable position for him to maintain. The most disturbing thing is when you realize that these mentions increase precisely at times when you're getting too close. It works as an emotional handbrake. When he feels that you are starting to expect more, to imagine possibilities, he throws reality into the conversation to bring you back to the allowed place. It's a form of control that keeps you always aware of your limits, always knowing what your space is. There is a subtle cruelty in this behavior. He wants your company, your admiration, your emotional availability. But at the same time, it needs to make sure that you never forget that there is a hierarchy. She's the wife, you're the other thing. And by mentioning it strategically, he reinforces this hierarchy without having to say it explicitly. The painful truth is that you are being trained to accept less. Every time you hear her name and stay there, you teach him that you accept to occupy a secondary and undefined space in his life. 5. How much silence you can stand without charging. He goes days without giving news. No explanation, no prior warning, just absolute silence. When he finally reappears, he acts normally, as if this disappearance did not deserve even a comment. And the most interesting thing is to observe your reaction. Do you question or accept it as if it were something natural? This pattern of disappearance reveals a lot about the power dynamics that are being built. Every time he disappears and you don't demand satisfaction, you set a precedent. You teach him that he can come and go from your life without consequences, without having to give explanations, without maintaining any consistency. It's like signing an invisible contract where you give up the right to demand presence. Strategic silence works as an extremely effective emotional control tool. During these periods of absence, you are in a state of suspension. He doesn't know if something serious happened, if he regretted it, if he lost interest. Your mind begins to create stories, to seek explanations, to question what you may have done wrong. Meanwhile, he's just living his normal life, probably without thinking much about you. When it returns, you have two options. You can confront him about the disappearance, demand explanations, demonstrate that it is not acceptable. Or you can pretend that nothing happened, accept his return naturally, just happy that he is back. The second option is what he expects you to choose. And when you choose, you pass his test. But there is a psychological cost to this silent acceptance. Every time you swallow frustration and act like everything is fine, a piece of your self-esteem is eroded. You start to normalize a treatment that deep down you know is not fair. You begin to convince yourself that maybe you're being too demanding, expecting too much, asking for too much. The deeper question here is about what you are willing to tolerate in the name of keeping someone else in your life. Because these silences are not miscommunication or innocent forgetfulness. These are deliberate choices. He could send a simple message saying that he will be away for a few days. It takes 10 seconds, but he doesn't do it because he doesn't have to. You've proven that you accept less than that. The pattern becomes increasingly clear. The less you demand, the less it offers, until you find yourself in a situation where crumbs of attention look like feasts. 6. The measurement of your unconditional availability. He always looks for you at the same times, usually late at night or at specific times in his routine. You are never the one who defines when the contact happens, and you realize that you are always available, always responding, always making room in your schedule when he appears. This seemingly harmless pattern is revealing something crucial about the dynamic between you. What's being measured here is how far your flexibility goes. He's testing whether you reorganize your life based on his availability. If you cancel other appointments when he has a breach, if you stay up late waiting for his message, each time you do this, you demonstrate that he is the highest priority, while for him you are fitted into the ranges. This asymmetry does not happen by chance. It is built gradually through small concessions that accumulate. At first you accept it because it seems reasonable. He has a complicated life, many responsibilities, so you adapt. But over time you realize that it's always you who adapts, never him. The test here goes beyond measuring availability. He's assessing how much you value your own time and energy. People who respect themselves naturally set limits. They do not stay in a state of emotional readiness, waiting for the other to decide when there will be interaction. They have their own lives, their own commitments, their own priorities, and they demand reciprocity. When you're always available, you communicate something dangerous, that there's nothing else important going on in your life besides him. This decreases their perceived value drastically. Not because it's fair or right, but because that's how human psychology works. We value what seems scarce, difficult to obtain. When you're always there, always accessible, always waiting, you become predictable, and predictable is rarely exciting. There is also a dimension of respect in this equation. When someone genuinely cares about you, they consider your time as valuable as their own. He doesn't expect you to always be available because he understands that you have a complete and complex life. He arranges schedules, makes plans in advance, respects his other commitments. The hard truth is that unconditional availability does not generate appreciation. It generates self-indulgence. You become the convenient option, the one he knows will be there regardless of how he behaves. And as long as you stay in that role, you'll never get the treatment you deserve. 7. The selective vulnerability experiment. He opens up to you in ways he claims never to do to anyone. He tells deep fears, insecurities that he never revealed, dreams that he kept to himself. You feel special, chosen to enter an intimate space that no one else accesses. But all this vulnerability has a very specific purpose that goes beyond simple emotional connection. What he's doing is creating a sense of artificial exclusivity. By sharing these confidences, he makes you feel that you have something unique, a connection that transcends the ordinary. This generates a deep emotional investment on your part. You start to see yourself as the person who really understands him, who sees beyond the surface, who knows the real man behind the social masks. But notice the pattern. These emotional revelations are always accompanied by implicit or explicit requests. After opening up about the difficulties, he needs your understanding of why he can't do more for you. After revealing insecurities, he needs your validation and encouragement. Their vulnerability always ends up putting you in a position of emotional caregiver. There is a subtle manipulation going on here. When someone is vulnerable, our natural instinct is to protect, support, not judge. He uses it to his advantage. By exposing yourself emotionally, it creates a shield against questions you could ask. It is difficult to demand attitudes from someone who has just revealed his deepest weaknesses. You don't want to come across as callous or cruel. The test here is about emotional loyalty. He is measuring whether you will keep these confidences, whether you will use this information against him, whether you will respect him even though you know his weaknesses. When you demonstrate that you are a safe haven, that you do not judge, that you offer unconditional support, You pass, and as he passes, you become the person he can run to when he needs emotional comfort, without having to offer anything concrete in return. The most problematic thing is that this dynamic creates an illusion of intimacy that does not translate into real commitment. You can have deep conversations, you can share intense emotions, you can have a connection that feels meaningful, but at the end of the day, he comes back into his life, and you keep waiting in the wings. Emotional intimacy without commitment is one of the most confusing situations that exist. You feel like you have something special, but you don't have anything defined. And he continues to reap the benefits of this deep connection without having to change anything at all in the structure of his life. 8. The ultimate test: how far you go without guarantees. After all the other tests, the definitive moment arrives. He never promised anything concrete, never talked about the future, never committed to anything, but you're still there. Investing time, emotional energy, quiet expectations, and that's exactly what he needs to confirm. Are you willing to be without any assurance that this will lead to something? This test reveals the harshest truth about the whole dynamic. You are accepting a relationship based purely on possibilities. Maybe it will break up one day. Maybe he realizes that you are special. Maybe things will change. Meanwhile, you live on emotional crumbs and stolen moments, always hoping that that one might turn into reality. What's really happening is that you've turned the safest bet for him. You offer companionship, understanding, validation, and emotional availability without demanding anything that complicates their life. You don't force decisions. You don't create ultimatums. You don't push for definitions. It's the best of both worlds. It maintains the stability of established life while having the freshness of a new connection with you. But there is a price that only you are paying. While he has two working worlds, you're stuck in limbo. Your love life is on pause, waiting for someone who may never become truly available. You're not free to meet other people because you're emotionally invested in it. You're not in a real relationship because he doesn't offer it. You're simply waiting. The psychology behind it is cruel in its simplicity. The more you invest without receiving collateral, the harder it is to exit. Every month that passes, every memory they create, every intimate moment shared becomes one more reason to keep going. You start thinking about all the time you've already invested and feel like it would be a waste to give up now. It is the sunk cost fallacy applied to emotions. The final test reveals whether you truly believe you deserve more than that, because deep down you know the answer. Men who want to be with you for real find ways to make it happen. They don't leave you in a permanent state of uncertainty. They don't make you compete with ghosts. They don't test you to see how much you can take before you give up. The question you need to ask yourself is, how much time of your one life are you willing to spend waiting for someone who has already demonstrated through each of these tests that you will never be the priority?